I want to ask you a question about Melvin Gordon. What has Melvin Gordon done for this team? Like what do you believe he adds to this team? What's the value of Melvin Gordon on the Broncos roster?
You got a hard runner who falls forward, doesn't really take negative plays, is an excellent pass blocker, is a good receiver out of the backfield, and he makes plays when you need him to make plays. You know, that Jets game, they needed a play. Boom. You go to Melvin Gordon, and he came up with one. I think he's kind of a spark plug. I think he's a guy that comes in and gets you the necessary yardage. Now, he was designed to be the guy that would get you the tough yards when you had, 3rd and 1. Or short goal-to-go type situations that he'd be the guy. I don't know why they got cutesy and went with that shovel pass instead of running Melvin Gordon down their throat. I think everybody goes back and says that was a mistake now. But, he was brought in to be that guy. That's what you paid him to be, and he has absolutely lived up to the billing. He's 8th in the NFL in rushing yards right now, look at what they've trotted out at quarterback. So anybody who's got a complaint about what Melvin Gordon has done so far, I don't know what you're watching, but it ain't football.
Leads the team in first downs.
Yeah.
Averaging 4.3 yards per carry.
I mean, that's not a great average, but, if you look at the total negative plays that he's been involved in, it's near nil.
He is 8th in attempts and 9th in yards so far. Now, there are some that say, well, you're paying him top 5 money. Maybe you expect him to have top 5 numbers. It's only week 4. The season isn't done yet. The other thing I wanted to mention, something was ringing around in my head when I heard Melvin Gordon today, and I was thinking about this conversation we were going to have. What was the big reason why you did like the Melvin Gordon signing? There was one thing that you kept coming back to that the Broncos were really deficient at last year.
Situational football.
There's one more thing that they were really deficient at last year that you said you're really excited about having Melvin Gordon here for.
Catching the ball out of the backfield. I mean, I'm trying to remember specifically because there were several things, but the situational football, specifically short yardage, goal-to-go type situations, that was the specific thing that really... You
sort of hit on it there is 3rd downs, third and short.
3rd and short, yeah.
Yes.
Situational football.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. So let's expound on that. I have some interesting numbers on that, but let's expound on that for just a second because the Broncos are improved there. Now, it's maybe not all on Melvin Gordon, but maybe the threat of Melvin Gordon does help a little bit of that. In fact, they're up a lot in 3rd down percentage. For all the numbers that they are down offensively, and they are down in quite a few, they are up in that. So would you say that at least that part has worked out so far, Melvin
absolutely.
Gordon?
I would say, because they're up I forget what the percentage.
7%.
They're up 7%. They're converting 7% more 3rd downs than they were already. Despite the quarterback play, they're still converting that.
And if you want to know the difference, it's 7%. So 7% maybe not seems like that much, but in the NFL, it's massive.
That is a huge difference.
The NFL, it's the difference between the Broncos last year. I think they were 30th. Actually, I'll take it from this year. So this year, the Broncos in 3rd down conversion, we'll make it simple here. The Broncos this year are 24th. 7% higher would make them 12th.
Right.
Last year, they were 30th. 7% higher would make them 18th.
Right.
It's significant.
It's the difference between a bottom-of-the-barrel offense and a middle-of-the-road offense.
Exactly.
7%. It's a difference between a middle-of-the-road offense and an elite offense.
Yeah, and the company there shows it. So, the 7% last year, if they were 7% last year at 30th, they would have gone up to 18th. They'd have been in the neighborhood of Green Bay.
Yeah, that's
pretty good company.
Impressive.
Yeah, so I'm just sort of pointing that out. Like, you are already a better team in that category. Like I said, there's several other categories that they need to improve on. Their points per game is down. Rushing is overall. You're 29th. And that's another thing that kind of bothers me is so you're 29th at rushing as a team, and yet you're saying, well, that's all on Melvin Gordon. I'm like, well, no, that also has to do with the entirety team. And real quick on that, oftentimes, and you can speak to this as a guy that not only played but studies the game, the running game as a whole is not tied to one man. It is not tied to just your running back. A special running back can sometimes create and do something extraordinary.
Well, yeah, but even a special running back without an offensive line, without a quarterback to get safeties out of the box, is even then it's still going to be tough.
Blocking downfield, all of it, right?
Right. We've seen special backs like Adrian Peterson be able to compensate for bad teams around him before, but even guys like Lev Bell, who's a special talent, you look at what he was trying to do with the Jets and still couldn't get it done just because it's so difficult. You're absolutely right. It's not tied to one man.
But I hate that this conversation usually gets tied to one guy. I hate that it's...
How so?
well, like we say, the Broncos are 28th in rushing. Well, Melvin Gordon is a bust. Well, does that really tell the entire story?
No, not at all. I mean, Phil Lindsay's been out. They're not going to any of the other backs. Royce has gotten a few plays here or there. But it's really, no, it's not tied to one man. I mean, and getting Phil back is going to be huge for Melvin Gordon because you can have plays with both of them on the field, run jet action to one side and counter the running back to the other. You can spell a guy reliably when you need to. Like you can bring Melvin out in the first quarter, bring Phil out in the second and third, and then bring Melvin to salt it away in the fight. He's going to be wildly effective getting those little chunk plays one after the other in the fourth quarter because he's going to be fresh. Against defenses are going to be gassed.
It's a really good point you bring up. You're not really getting that part of the offense just yet. The Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay on the field at the same time. Mm-hmm. Remember we saw that during training camp? Mm-hmm. You haven't had a chance to see that. So you're not only are you missing your starting quarterback, your number one wide receiver, you're also missing what was I would say a significant part of what the offensive scheme was going to be, but it's part of it. Mm-hmm. Clearly, Pat Shurmur was looking forward to having Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon on the field at the same time, and he hasn't had that opportunity.
Right, they really have. In fact, the first play of the game, I lined both of them up, on the field. The first play of the season, lined them both up on the field at the same time. I'd like to see some more of that. I'd like to see because Shurmur did have some cool plays like that throughout his history with two backs out there, some gun two-back stuff. And I'd love to see some jetting Lindsay from the shallow side of the field or the wide side of the field, and then get counter action off of that with an option play with the quarterback and with Melvin Gordon. I promise you can get the linebackers leaning, then all of a sudden you get Melvin Gordon in space and it's off to the races. And I don't know. I really think that could be something, and I wish that they had the opportunity to get that package going. Hopefully they'll be able to do that against a New England team that's been susceptible to that stuff over the years. I think everybody remembers what happened when the Miami Dolphins out of nowhere busted out the single wing with the Wildcat and ran buck wild all over Bill Belichick's defense. It's susceptible to that.
So anyways, I'm hoping that after listening to this segment, that anybody that's kind of been down on Melvin Gordon so far is maybe appreciative of at least what he brings to the table. I mean, right now, if Philip Lindsay was down and you didn't have Melvin Gordon, it would be the Royce Freeman show and whatever rookie you drafted. Or Levante Bellamy, right? I mean, that would be kind of your group out there.
Yeah.
And I can't say for certainty that it would be worse, but I think that you're in pretty good hands overall with Melvin Gordon. He had the fumble in the first game. That was significant, but he's been pretty dang good since.